Hello Zimbabwe, welcome to LiveTalk. We are coming to you live from Studio 7 at the Voice of America in Washington. I am your host, Taboka Ncube. Today we are discussing the worsening food insecurity in Zimbabwe as the cost of living continues to spike. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs released a report on the humanitarian impact of El Nino in Southern Africa this week. The report says the country's local currency depreciated by about 50% in January this year alone, leading to a 600% surge in the cost of living compared to January 2023. It adds that the economy has been hit by a high food inflation rate of 60.3%. But first, a look at what's happening in the US. The White House is urging senators to quickly begin considering a bill that would address national security concerns related to the social media app TikTok. The House approved the measure earlier this week. VOA congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson reports.
TikTok creators voice concerns on Capitol Hill.
Keep TikTok! Keep TikTok!
As the U.S. House passes a bill that would call on the social media app's Chinese parent company ByteDance to divest from TikTok in order for the app to continue operating in the United States. The White House supports the effort.
Do we want private data that Americans have to be here or in China? Do we want companies to be owned here or in China? That was what he said. So, and I want to be also very clear here, this bill would not ban apps like TikTok.
TikTok has argued the bill limits freedom of expression and that the app does not pose a security risk.
Over the last few years, we have invested to keep your data safe and our platform free from outside manipulation.
China warned Thursday the bill would put foreign-owned companies at a competitive disadvantage in the U.S.
The U.S. handling of the TikTok issue will let the world see more clearly whether the so-called rules and orders of the U.S. are beneficial to the world or only serve itself.
The threat of a ban on TikTok is putting U.S.-China relations in focus for the first time for many Americans.
This is a very, very unusual move. We have seen previous actions taken against Chinese companies like Huawei or ZTE, but those weren't consumer-facing companies. So this is really putting U.S.-China tensions right at front and center of many American lives.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the Senate will consider the bill in committee. Many lawmakers already support the effort.
I do not want the Chinese Communist Party getting personal data about our citizens, nor being able to have algorithms that would propagandize the American public.
Other senators would like to see a more broadly targeted bill.
If I was in charge, I wouldn't be prioritizing a bill to ban TikTok. I would be prioritizing a bill to protect kids online, not just on TikTok, but on a lot of other social media sites that they use.
Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary under former President Donald Trump, said Thursday he is putting together a group of investors to purchase TikTok. Catherine Gibson, VOA News.
In Harare, the first edition of the Zim US Business Forum, which kicked off Monday this week, concluded Thursday evening with the American-based Atlanta Black Chambers ABC signing 7 business agreements in various sectors. ABC Head of Delegation, Mr. Ricardo Beris, speaks on the agreements.
One of the more important agreements that we've signed today is with the Atlanta Black Chamber or GOC, or Global Opportunities Committee, and the CEO ART to support each other in identifying opportunities here in Zimbabwe, as well as those that are in Atlanta in the United States, to ensure that we can continue to trade with each other, we can continue to partner, and we can continue to invest in each other. I think that is perhaps the most significant agreement, because the CEO Art Roundtable has got a network of members who are serious about doing business with each other, and we are also serious about that. The other MOUs we have signed we're going to be starting working immediately to work on some of this stuff that we're doing with Dandu Mutande, and Tel 1 around training, also around working on some infrastructure items. So hopefully within a few months you'll be able to see some of those results of the fruits that we've planted.
That was Atlanta Black Chamber's head of delegation, Ricardo Beris, speaking to Studio 7 in Harare. CEO Africa Roundtable, the conveners of the Business Forum, said the agreements have laid a foundation for engagements to continue. CEO Africa Roundtable Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Kipson Kundani, speaks to Studio 7.
Takaita misangano yakawandisa yekudyidzana kwemabusiness yatingati business to business, vanhu vachikurukura mushandwa wemaproject akasiyana siyana mu-technology, muzvivakwa, real estate, mu-manufacturing nekutengeserana, kugadzirwa kwezvinhu nekutengeserana. So nhasi tiri kuona zvino makambani akasiyana vachisainirana maagreement enzwisisano yekutanga achagadzira hwaro hwokuti kutaurirana kwokurambe kuchienda pamberi. Tine chivimbo chokuti mumwedzi mishoma inosvika tinogona kuona actual business rakuitika place. Pasainwa zvibvumirano zvinosvika ku7 maprivate makambani akazvimirira oga emuno muZimbabwe nemakambani akazvimirira oga ekuAmerica, uyezve mubatanidzwa wamabhizinisi emuno muZimbabwe nemubatanidzwa waAtlanta Black Chamber of Commerce. Saka pane agreement yatasaina isu seCEO Africa Roundtable neAtlanta Black Chamber, uyewo mubatanidzwa weCZI nema-manufacturers anova banduko reAtlanta Black Chamber. Izvi zvichaita kuti mamembers edu arambe achidyidzana kusvika tawana chouviri mukudyidzana ikoko.
That was CEO Africa Roundtable Chief Executive Officer Kipson Kundani speaking to Studio 7 in Harare. Dandemtande CEO Mr. Neva Ncube, whose company is one of the companies that entered into an agreement with ABC member MI Group, tells Studio 7 that the engagements were fruitful.
So we've signed with the MI Group a memorandum of understanding for building a state-of-the-art data center in Zimbabwe near the cyber city. So that's the agreement that we've signed today. We are very intentional about wanting to expand our cloud services in the country. And this is just but one of the efforts that we are doing to make sure that we bring up another tier 3 data center that will be career neutral and be available for public use. From the acquisition of the land, building the superstructure, getting the equipment out of the US, to it opening its doors to the public. That's the time that we are looking at. Kuqakathekile kakhulu ukuthi sibe lezakhiwo ezinjalo ezinjengama data centers. Siyakubona ukuthi abantu abaningi sebefuna ukuthi information yabo ibe on the cloud. Thina njengelizwe asila enough of ama data center. And as Dandemtande City, nge-agreement le esiyenzileyo labantu be-MI Group from Atlanta, sifuna ukuthi basincedise ukuthi sizuze i-equipment evela e-America esizayisebenzisa ukwakha i-data center eZimbabwe duze le-cyber city.
That was Dandemtande CEO Mr. Neva Ncube speaking to Studio 7 in Harare. Please stay tuned as we take a brief break.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7, and VOA Ndebele. We are also live on YouTube, VOA Zimbabwe. Now back to our topic of the day. The World Bank has also painted a grim picture of Zimbabwe's economy, highlighting that Zimbabwe has the highest food inflation of any country in Africa, followed by Egypt. The government itself has not played down the situation, revealing that due to the drought, Zimbabwe expects a harvest of between 700,000 and 800,000 metric tons of all cereals planted for the 2023 to 2024 summer cropping season, against an annual national requirement of 1.2 million metric tons. This will create a huge deficit that has already left between 2.7 million and 3.5 million people in need of urgent food aid. And now to discuss this issue in detail, we are joined on the line by economic analysts Mr. Masimba Kuchera, who works with the Center for Disability Rights, and Mr. Rejoice Ngwenya, who works with the Coalition for Market and Liberal Solutions, Comaliso. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I'll start with you, Mr. Kuchera. Looking at all this that is happening and the report by the United Nations, what does this mean for the ordinary citizens of Zimbabwe?
It means that the ordinary Zimbabwean will not be able to enjoy basics because they will not be able to afford it. Generally, when we are talking about inflation, we are talking about the rise of prices. So if we are saying that there is serious food inflation, it means that there is a rise in prices of food and there is a rise in the price of basics. And we know how Zimbabwean businesses operate, because usually when you hear news like that, Zimbabwean businesses, even when there is no need for an increase, they increase prices. So what it means for the ordinary Zimbabwean is that there will be a shortage of food, and that food that will be available will be very expensive and beyond the reach of many Zimbabweans.
Thank you. Si ubuyagini lapana babangwenya li bona njani ugwalo lolu olukhitshwe United Nations ngokwenzakalayo ezansi yeAfrika kanye laseZimbabwe lapha?
Liqiniso ngoba siyaziwa nje ukuthi phela thina singapha emzansi weAfrika siphila ngezulu. Abantu abaningi nje abahlala emakhaya baphila ngezulu ngoba imisebenzi akula. Yikho nxa ukhanya sokulendlala ukuthi ukudla kwakhona kuyasilelwa, okuningi kwakhona kuyabe sekuthengwa kuvela ngaphandle kwelizwe. Nxa ke sukhangela usindo wemali yakhona, imali yakhona ivele iyaphephuka ilula, sokukhanya ukuthi ufanele udingeke imali yamabhondi alapha dinga imali yangaphandle kwelizwe ukwenzela ukuthi uphumelele ukuthenga ukudla. Kodwa abantu abaningi abasebenzi, abanye bayasebenzela. Hayi kuzima sibili, umuntu kazana sibili, hayi lo nyaka uyabe thwele nzima. Ngiyabona ukuthi kuzakuba lokuhlupheka abantwana abaningi laba abamunyayo, umama abazithweleyo labo laba besikolo, hayi ngibona ngathi bathola amagabha avuzayo ngenxa yokukhwela kwentengo yezinto ezithwa ngaphandle kwelizwe.
Siyabonga babangwenya. Vakucherati chidzoka kwamuri, tiri kuona kuti mitengo yezvinhu iri kuendera mberi ichikwira, zvikuru sei chikafu. Patakatarisa gore ra2024 iri, ndezvipi zvatingatarisira kuti zvingaitika, uye tingaona here patidzoka nguva apo paishaikwa chikafu even pamashops tichiwana mashelf asisina zvino sezvaitika gore ra2008. muri kuona gore rino rakamira sei?
Handifungi kuti chikafu chichazoshayika mumashops kubudikidza nekuti tiri kukwanisa, kune vamwe vanokwanisa kutenga chikafu ichi nemari dzekunze kwenyika. Saka mashops achatenga zvinhu nemari yekunze vozviunza muno munyika. Saka zvinenge zvichidhura asi zvinenge zviriko. Kungangonetsa chikafu kumamisha zvikuru sei kana gore rakunopera takunopinda mugore ra2025 vava kupedza zvavanenge vakarima, nekuti tiri kutoona kuti gore rineri hakuna kana chiriko. Saka muzvitoro chikafu chinenge chirimo asi chichidhura. Chimwe chinhu chichaitika ndechekuti nekuda kwekuti upfumi hwedu hauna kumira zvakanaka, tine dambudziko rekuti tine hurumende inotipa maZimbabwean dollars asi ivo vachitengesa zvinhu nema-US dollars. Izvozvo zvichagadzira rimwe dambudziko rekuti vachange vaine ma-US dollars ndo vanenge vachikwanisawo kutenga zvavanenge vachikwanisa kutenga, asi vane mazim dollars zvichawedzera kuvaomera, zvichireva kuti vanhu vazhinji vemunyika vachaomerwa. Tiri kutarisa apa macivil servants vanga vachitaurwa namukoma Ngwenya, madzimai akazvitakura, madzimai ari kuyamwisa, tichitarisa futi nevanhu vakaremara vachange vari matambudziko makuru nekuti mabhizinesi avo mazhinji anotreda neZimbabwean dollar, asi zvinhu zvakawanda zvichange zvichiwanikwa neavo vane ma-US dollar. Saka nderimwe dambudziko richatanga kuratidza musiyano pane vanazvo nevasina muZimbabwe.
Tinotenda Baba Ngwenya. Kuqhubekela phambili lapha kukhanya ukuthi udaba lokudla lutsho ukuthi akuza kuba sekuthengwa ukudla ngaphandle kwelizwe, njalo sibone uhulumende esithi usazavumela ukuthi kube kuthengwa into ezinjenge rice, lempuphu kanye lomumbu kungabhadaleka i-tax yokungenisa izinto elizweni uqalisa ngoJuly lonyaka. Lina lokhu libona ngani kuzaphathisa, likubona njani konke lokho?
Ya, njengoba esitsho ukutshela ukuthi udla kuyabe kukhona, awusolakali ezitolo emavinkilini ayegcwele, ngoba phela laba abathengayo basebenzisa imali ezangaphandle esithi khona ama-offshore account, labana balamadola nje abavele belawo. Kodwa inkinga esilayo lapha eZimbabwe ukuthi imali iyaswelakala. Njengoba ngitshilo eqathini ukuthi abantu vele umuntu kazana vele akala mali, imisebenzi awula, bayazama ukuziphandela ekhaya njengoba siyazi ukuthi izulu alinanga kuhle, vele ngayo imali iyahlupha. So kuyafana nje ukuthi akula kudla, ngoba nxa ukudla kugcwele esitolo kodwa ungela mali usilwa imali yokuthenga, ulambe yalamba. Yikho angiboni ukuthi kungaba loncedo. Uhulumende uyazima kakhulu ukuthi akhiphe imithelo ekungenisa izimpahla lokudla eZimbabwe, kodwa nje abantu abeZimbabwe also business abaningi bavele bayizihwaba. Uzabona ukuthi iZimbabwe yilona lizwe ukuthi vele akula intengo eyokudla engehla. Ipetrol, amafutha engavelahle eyehla ngaphansi kwelizwe ngapha ayebekhwela. Nxa amafutha ekhwela, amagrethi ekhwela, ukuthi esingathi amakhosi ahambelana lokudla akayehli. Ukudla kusukehle ukuthi abantu bazavele belekhe bekhitheka. Bayadobhadobha nje emavinkilini, kodwa hathi sizabona abantu sebesina sebefika emini kuphela ntambama kuphela kungela mali yokuthenga ukudla.
Siyabonga Baba Ngwenya. Vakuchera pa tambonzwa Vangwenya vachitaura apo vachiti nyika yedu inyika yakatarisira pakurima uyezve tikuona hurumende yakatarisira kuti pangabudawo zvimwe apo panguva yewinter farming season pachange pachirimwa zvinhu zvinenge wheat. Tingatarisira here kuti pangaita kubatsira kana kuvapo kwechikafu chiri kubva pasizini yekurima yenguva yechando iyi iri kuuya gore rino?
Mwanamai, dai izvi izvozvo zvanga zviri sekutsanangurwa kwatinoita nehurumende, tingadai tisina dambudziko rakawanda, nekuti mutungamiriri wenyika vaitofamba vachiti hai Zimbabwe yava food sufficient, Zimbabwe yava kuzvirimira zvinhu zvayo, yava nematura akazara. Asi tiri kunzwa kuti vanhu vanodarika 3.5 million, which is a quarter of the population, havana chikafu. So clearly zvatiri kuudzwa nehurumende nezviri paground zvinhu zvakasiyana. Mumatura hamuna chinhu. Zvakonzera izvo kuti tinge tiine estimate yekuti 3.5 million vanhu vanenge vasina chikafu. Saka tine tariro yekuti winter cropping season ingangounzawo zviviri zvitatu, asi ngatisanyanya kutarisira ipapo, nekuti taiudzwa kusvika iko zvino kuti Zimbabwe inyika yaakukwanisa kuzvimiririra panyaya yekurima chikafu. Zimbabwe ine zvinhu zvakakwana, asi tiri kutoona kuti mumatura muzere mhepo.
Tinotenda. Coming back to you, Mr. Ngwenya, we've talked about all these challenges that we are facing this year as a country. What are the steps that you would recommend Zimbabwe to take to alleviate such a situation?
Yeah, good question. You see, when we are looking at a food trade economy, it affects the entire spectrum of the development metrics. In other words, in simple English, it means that infrastructure is affected. The health delivery is affected. We're talking about malnutrition of young children, who will be affected to go to school and all that. So really, mitigation, ends are several. One of the first things that the Zimbabwe government should do now is to declare a national disaster. And this is why I keep getting a bit concerned that the government is postponing that national policy position, because when a disaster is declared, there is a number of countries that will divert their resources to try and sustain this failing economy. So without that, even international aid organizations are not likely to give us prize. And secondly, of course, there must be mechanisms now to try and ensure the country is prepared in future. The mitigation of preparation is very critical, so that we don't incur the same problem in the future. And of course, the other important thing is to ensure that the information is communicated correctly. As Kuchera says, there's no point in engaging in propaganda saying everything is okay when nothing is okay. So I think we need to tailor-make our information to be factual. The diaspora community is very, very huge. They can be able also to sustain this government. And of course, let's get our governance in order. Let's depoliticize the support systems so that this aid is available across the board. This is ensure that whatever little is available, it is then available to our citizens as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ngwenya. Mr. Kuchera, we heard the recommendations that Mr. Ngwenya has there. What's your take on the way forward for Zimbabwe?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Ngwenya, and I think the government should clearly now be able to start categorizing people, look at, as you are saying, young people of school-going age, prepare the schools even for meals within schools. Also take care of those with disabilities, make sure that they are also taken care of. But the issue is also that we need to sort our economy out. Our economy is the biggest non-functional elephant in the room. We have a situation where our currency cannot even $20,000 will only buy a loaf of bread. So we need to also have economic reform that will then allow any future planning to be anchored on a strong economy. So it's important for us, first of all, to realize that
vakuchera regaindi mboku bata imromo pane apindawo parunhare mozoenderera mberi. Alo moyo mapinda muchirongo.
Makadiko baba brother Taboka Ngove navasimba kuchera nevamwe vose nekutere nevatarisi kwavari matuma nenyika.
Tinotenda kandai shoko renyu tichiona pa zvatiri kutaura nezvazvo nhasi iri nyaya yakatarisana neZimbabwe yenzara iyi.
Ya brother Taboka, kunyika yeZimbabwe kune nzara yakanga tiri kuZimbabwe musi weFriday, Saturday, Sunday. Patakapinda paBait Bridge kuenda nerodhi yemasvingo kutena pangondo kusvika kuTiredzi kose. Hakuna chiriko, vanhu vakangogara izuva roga roga, mapisi raita zuva, zvirimwa zvakaoma kunge zvakadirwa mushonga kupisa bundu kuita brown. Vanhu vakabata mavoko, nzara iri mukati menyika yeZimbabwe matunhu mazhinji zvakaoma, nekuti patanga tichitaura nemusi weSunday uchiona paungano yatanga tiri patatafambira waiona uzvishuwa vanhu vane nzara. Kunyika yeZimbabwe kune nhamo isingaiti. Nokuti chero vanotenga mumashopu hongu zvakawanda zvataurwa, asi kuti gore rino nzara iriko. Toda kungoyambira zvikuru kuvana veZimbabwe vari kunze kwenyika uko kuti pamunenge mawana zamai kutengera vabereki upfu, nokuti nzara iriko haina kumira mushe. Kune nzara isingabviri, nokuti mumunda mose kubva kuBait Bridge kusvika kumasvingo kuenda kuTiredzi kana Ngundu kuzaka
tinotenda
nzara isingabviri brother.
Tinotenda vamoyo kuti mapinda muchirongwa. Vakuchera munogona kupedzisa in less than a minute nekuti nguva yedu yati manyei.
Ngatigare pasi senyika tigadzirise upfumi nekuti ndo chinhu chiri kukanganisa zvinhu zvakawanda. Tinofanira kunge tiine mari inotenga, mari ine chiremerera. Iko zvino zvatiri kuita izvi hazvina kwazvinotisvitsa uye kuti zvinotipinza matambudziko akati wandei.
Tinotenda vakuchera. Unfortunately angisozengenelisa ukuthi ngilipe isikhathi babangwenyu ukuthi liphosele ukugcina, kodwa ngithathe leli thuba ukuthi ngilibonge kakhulu ukuthi lingenile kuhlelo namhlanje lapha kade sikhuluma khona ngodaba olukhangelane leZimbabwe olendlala. And that brings us to the end of our show. Signing off in Washington, I am Taboka Ngube. Thank you so much for coming on the show.